The White Lady by Alan Bissett. Read by James Mackenzie.
The old, ruined crypt stands alone in the middle of the woods. Abody kens it's there, but naebody goes near it. I mean, why walk your dog there? There's a weird atmosphere about the crypt. Cleggit, creepy, dreich. It's where the rich folk for the big house used to bury their dead, hundreds of years ago. And even though the rich folk didn't stay in the big house nae more, even though the big house has been empty for years and the woods turned into a place for ordinary gadgies like us, still naebody goes to the crypt. The only ones we do are boys getting dared to go there on Halloween. Boys like Callum here. He's stoating about with his pals. They're too old to go guising round the doors. That's for wains. What do you get anyway? Some monkey nuts, a tangerine, maybe a bit of chocolate if you're lucky. And you have to say some stupid wee rhyme like, trick or treat, smell my feet, give me something nice to eat. Callum wasn't a Wayne now. Let his wee brother traipse round the scheme like that. No. He was out with Jack and Liam. The lads. And they were in the mood for gieing themselves an awfy fleg. I mean, it was Halloween. That's what it's for. The pictures were full of horror films, and there had been adverts for scary movies on the telly all week. After school, and after they'd each had their dinner, they went round to Jack's bit, went up to his bedroom, and watched an 18 film. Jack's mam thought they were watching a superhero film, but no. It was all ghosts and blood and serial killers, and it had scared Callum daft. Not that he'd been able to admit it to the lads. You had to keep your end up in front of them. Now, they were out into the scheme, and Callum could see that the film had done something to Jack. He had a dark light in his eyes, the same one he got when he suggested shoplifting last week. Let's go out of the woods and find the crypt, said Jack excitedly. The woods, said Callum. At night? No, man, better staying out of there. Oh, said Jack, doing a mocking wee dance. Are you scared? Dinna greet noo. No, Callum tutted. I'm just not allowed in the woods when it's dark. Mam doesn't let me. Jack made a big exaggerated baby face. Oh, you better no do it if your mam doesn't like it. Grow up, Jack, you heed the baw, Callum said. But he also kent that he had to prove himself to the boys, or they'd just keep at him. If there was one thing Callum hated, it was folk gieing him a beasting, especially since Jack and Liam were meant to be neighbours. But they'd picked up this attitude for Jack's bampot big brother, who ran with a gang of horners that enjoyed blootering folk. And now, instead of just having a good time together, it seemed like everybody was supposed to slag each other off all the time. Callum couldn't tell him that sometimes, when they laughed at his trainers or his haircut, that it actually hurt. Because then they'd just go, oh jeez, oh, it's just a patter, you idiot. And the worst thing in the world was no being able to take a joke, even when it gave him a right riddy. Jack really did act it sometimes. Last month it was Chapdoor Run. Callum had played it, but just about had a heart attack when he'd knocked crab at Archie's door, and Archie had been waiting there for him like a spider. Callum had ran like he'd never run afore, and Liam and Jack had been there round the corner, laughing their heads off. Then, a couple of days ago, Jack had dared Callum to chore a packet of sweeties out the shop. Callum had said no, but it meant that he definitely had to do Jack's next dare. You ken, said Liam as he headed through the underpass. The crypt's meant to be haunted by the White Lady. Liam's voice echoed in the tunnel. Dinna be daft, said Callum. But even he'd heard of the White Lady. He'd heard Jack's big brother and his pals spraffing about her, trying to scare the wee uns like them. Telling you, man, said Liam. Ken what happened? Hundreds of years ago, right, up at the big house, they threw out this servant lassie for having the bairn of the lord who owned the place. In January, just 'cause she wasn't merit, the servant lassie walked into the woods and froze to death. Her and her bairn. Callum shivered, but tried not to let it show. And she's been walking the woods ever since, holding her baby, the White Lady. That's just a story they used to freak folk out, said Callum. There's no such thing as ghosts. But he was glad they were out of the underpass now, away from its creepy echo. Prove it, said Jack, fly as ever, and his eyes challenged Callum. Come to the woods the night. Come on, said Liam. Your mam'll no ken, just for an hour, just to see. See what? Callum thought, frowning, and Jack pounced. Unless you're feart, he sniggered. I'm no feart, shouted Callum, but Jack made a face, and Callum kent that he'd sounded feart. Noo, here he was, 9 o'clock at night, standing with Jack and Liam at the iron gates that led to the crypt, and he kent they wouldn't be hame till yon time. The metal was cauled on his horns. It was gey dark. Through the trees, just picked out by the light of the full moon, was the old stone building that housed the dead bodies of the ancient folk. What if somebody sees us? Whispered Callum. Nabody'll see us, said Jack. Nobody comes this far into the woods at night, especially no on Halloween. Well, that thought didn't exactly reassure Callum. It's no like we're breaking the law, said Liam. The crypt's been abandoned for about 100 years. That thought didn't exactly reassure Callum either. Dare ye to walk round it, said Jack. Jack and his "I dare yous. You weren't allowed to turn a dare down, because if you did, he'd call you a fearty, and Callum had said no about the shoplifting. It was a Syrian, because for all the times Jack had used the word fearty, Jack himself done nothing to prove his own bravery. Callum wasn't sure why he hung about with Jack and Liam onymere. Maybe it was time to try and find some other pals who just wanted to play football or watch superhero films instead of choring things out of shops and breaking into crypts on Halloween night. But that didn't help him get out of a dare. He'll no dare it, said Liam. He's feart. But Callum could tell that Liam was just relieved that Jack hadn't dared him. Look, I'm no feart, all right, said Callum. I came out in the woods, did I know? But Jack wasn't the type to let these things go. Aye, but you're too feart to go near the crypt, said Jack, in case the poltergeists get ye. Jack did wavy fingers in front of Callum's eyes and went, "Woo!" And Callum jerked his head back, making Jack laugh. They're just fingers, Callum. Calm down. I didn't see you bringing in there, said Callum, managing to summon up some fecht. I'm the one who set the dare, no you, Jack shot back, and Callum wasn't able to argue against this logic. A dare was a dare was a dare. You didn't get out of one that easy. He kent there was only going to be one way to put Jack's gas at a peep. He had to do the thing that Jack could never have the guts to do himself. Walk round the crypt. If he went in there, then strode back out like he didn't have a care in the world, well, at least it'd show Liam that Jack was the real fearty. After that, they'd be eekies, and he could give them the body swerve from now on. Muttering, he pushed open the gate and donnered across the clearing towards the crypt that lay at its centre. The voices of Jack and Liam faded behind him, and soon all he could hear was the rustling of the grass and the wind moaning. The full moon frowned beyond the branches. It was chilly. He could see his own breath. Or at least, he hoped it was his breath. The crypt loomed in front of him. A circular tower that had long since been sealed up to the public. Silhouetted against the moonlight, silvery clouds flowing ahint it. The leaves crunched beneath his feet. He looked up at the crypt. Then he glanced back at the gate, which he'd been walking away from for 15 seconds, but looked about 10 miles away now. Slowly, he walked forwards and peered at the door of the crypt. An ancient steel thing, manky with graffiti. Some of it, he realised, had probably come from Jack's big brother's gang. So Callum stepped right up to the door to try to read some of it. In amongst "Kibo was here" and love hearts that said "Christine loves Stevie," something else was scrawled there. Callum squinted at it, trying to make out the words. Then the moon came out for a cloud, and his blood ran cold. Someone had scratched on the iron door in big letters. One word: run. That's when he heard the baby crying. Faint, distant, but definitely away. Screaming as though it had been abandoned. He couldn't quite tell what it was coming from. He cocked his head. Was it for the trees? Was it Liam and Jack kidding on, just to wind him up? He leaned towards the iron door of the crypt, touched its cold metal. No. The sound of the crying baby was coming from inside the crypt. Callum stepped back, his heart louping, then turned and ran. Ran across the leaves, ran for the gate, the baby's crying echoing out behind him. But the gate, which he'd left open, was shutting in front of him. Nobody was pushing it, it was just closing all on its own. He picked up speed and clattered through the opening just before the gate could slam closed behind him. Falling to the flare, throwing his horns onto the frosty earth in front of him. He still half expected to stand up and see Jack and Liam laughing at him for being a fearty. But when he stood, there was nobody there. He was on his own. outside the gates of the crypt. Nae Jack, nae Liam. "Hey, boys!" he shouted to the rustling trees, the moaning wind. "Come on! This isn't funny! I went in, didn't I? Yous can stop hiding." "They're not hiding," said a woman's voice behind him. Callum turned.
The Old Man of Little Dean by Alan Bissett. Read by Wendy Seeger.
Agnes, have you heard about what's happened up at Little Dean House? Have you no heard? Oh, it's terrible, so it is. The young laird has disappeared, been missing for days now, and nobody has a clue where he is. I mean, as you ken, the young laird wasna short o' enemies. He had a mouth like the Clyde Tunnel, and sometimes he'd stoat into the village bow he did to complain about this and that, ramblers walking through his estate and the like. Commoners, he used to cause. But what is it they say? Behind every great fortune there's a great crime. So wha kens wha might have had it in for the young laird. See Lizzie Doones, though, her wha works up at the tower. She's got a different theory. She thinks the old man o' Little Dean's got him. No, dinna laugh, Agnes. I believe in all that, ghosts and spirits and everything. Aye, I do. Dinna gie me all your in this day and age patter. I still think there's something out there, beyond. Well, that's up to you, Agnes. But maybe if the young laird had paid mair heed to his warnings, he wouldn't be missing noo, would he? Can you no mind the stories when we were wee about the old man o' Little Dean? Well, that's how we were never allowed near the tower. Well, back in the day, he was the laird o' Little Dean. He owned the estate, and by all accounts he was a right crabbit old miser. Oh, and he hated the common folk. The poorer you were, the mair he hated you. The threats he'd dish out if they even dared answer him back. How he'd chuck them out, he'd repossess their hooses, aye, all that. He used to shuffle about in that village, twa o' his men wi' him looking down his neb at us, and folk used to say behind his back, when it's his turn to go, he'll no be able to take all that money wi' him. And sure enough, did he no just drap down dead one day up there in the tower, halfway through gieing his chambermaid a row for drawing the left curtain before the right yin. 1 second he's wagging his finger at her, the next he's pan breed. A month later the estate was selt to the father of the present laird what we have the new, and was just went missing in very mysterious circumstances. You have to admit that at least, Agnes. It's puzzling. 'Cause, Agnes, there's some that say the old man o' Little Dean never left the house. Oh, aye, he died all right, but was to say he's no still there. 'Cause a'body had been right, Agnes. You cannae take your wealth wi' you once you go. And if you grabbed for too much o' it in life, the weight keeps you in purgatory, banished in a nether world. Every generation o' lassies for the village employed up at that house, for the cleaning woman to the ones wha walk the dugs, has reported the old man o' Little Dean wandering through the tower, scunnered, trapped between this world and the next, weighed down by the burden of his money. Folk say he's searching in vain for somewhere to put it down. That's what they say, Agnes, sure as I'm standing here the noo. Up to yoursel if you believe it or no. But here's where it gets really weird. Well, Lizzie Doones, mind I tell you she works up at the house. So, a few weeks ago she was in the tower, in the room where the old man used to sleep and where he died telling of his maid. Well, Lizzie was just cleaning it, and did she no feel the room go cold? And when she turned round, there's the old man himself. He's dressed in all his finery, and he's staring at Lizzie, and Lizzie looks and sees that his suit flows down past his waist, but then it disappears into thin air. Lizzie recognises him 'cause he'd own big painting of him in the hall, all torn-faced. And noo he's got that same glassy stare as he does in that painting, and he says to Lizzie, "Listen well, child. At the end of my garden is an old oak tree. Beneath this tree is buried what remains of my fortune. Tell the laird of this house that he must give my money to the poor in the village, or I cannot pass into the next world. Should he fail to do this, he will soon be walking here with me." And then afore you ken it, the old man just dissolves. Aye, just walked way back into the shadows and disappeared. Agnes, I'm telling you, that is what young Lizzie Doone said to me, and that lassie is not a liar. She's got quite a mouth on her, but she's not a liar. Well, I'll tell you exactly what happened next. Lizzie went to the young laird, who was in his study drinking brandy, half stocious by the by, and laughing about the fact that his car had sprayed mud across folk waiting at the bus stop, and she tells the laird about the old man's warning. There was a moment when the laird took this in afore he roared with laughter right there in front of her. Lizzie was just about to leave the study, black affronted, before the butler said to the laird, "If I may, your lordship, the young lady is telling the truth. An old man did once live in the tower, and your father bought this estate from him." And then the butler leans down to the laird and whispers, "He was worth a great deal of money, your lordship." Well, did that no put his gas at a peep? "Even greater than me?" the laird spluttered, as though somebody had just caught him for a tube. "Many times greater than you, sir," said the butler, smiling. With that, the laird jumped up and headed into the garden, barking out an order for the butler to bring his spade. Lizzie followed, dying to find out what the laird was going to do. They found the tree and stood looking up at it the way it threw its ancient branches against the night sky, the sound the wind made as it soaked through the leaves. "Well, go on then, dig," said the laird, and the butler dug, and sure enough, after a few minutes, did they no just howk up a chest? And did that chest no just contain all the cash the old man had amassed in his time? If he couldn't have it when he was dead, then nobody could. So he buried it in the garden. That surely must have been the final straw for them what live in the netherworld would judge on these things. As they looked at the money, Lizzie shivered right there on the spot. Maybe 'cause the old man was watching for the tower, or maybe just 'cause he had been right. What she does ken is that the young laird did not heed the old man's warning. Did you see him gain the money out to the likes of you and me down here in the village? No, neither did I, Agnes. He stuffed that money into his own bank account, and that is why he has disappeared. Now there's rumours that the young laird has been spotted in the tower too, except his legs have nae feet. They just disappear into nothing, while he wanders through the rooms, deathly pale, moaning about how he canna take his fortune wi' him. If what Lizzie says is true, unless another laird comes and actually heeds the warning this time, well, he's stuck there between twa worlds. Aye, hell mend him, Agnes. You canna take it wi' you right enough.
The Candle by Alan Bissett. Read by Helen McAlpin.
What would we have done if we hadn't seen that house? It appeared for the blizzard by the side of the road, and I pointed it out to Mam excitedly. "Change of plan, lasses," Mam says. "We'll try to reach Callander the morrow morning." She stopped the car in the deep snow, or, if I'm being honest, the deep snow stopped the car. And me, Mum and Jenna humphed our bags out, done up our jackets and skited up to the front door, the wind hammering cold flakes against our coupons. It was a big, old house, the grey stains spattered with snow, the turrets disappearing upwards into the storm. Jenna was right put out with it, I could tell. Had that sort of fairy cat look she got when the big girls dared us to walk into the train tunnel that time, or when our pals tell her about the horror film they'd taken a keek at the night afore. But what could we do? Couldn't very well bide in the car, could we? Come morning somebody would need to howk us out the snow. Mum knocked the big old door knocker 3 times while we waited there, chittering, pulling our hoods against the wind. Eventually, the door creaked open and there was an old wifey standing there, holding a candle, looking a bit puzzled to see visitors on a night like this. The woman said, "Can I help you?" in this raspy dour voice, and Jenna squeezed my horn. "Oh, please let us in," Mum said, sounding desperate. The woman took a wee moment to think about this, looking me and Jenna up and down as though wondering whether or no she could trust our accents. See posh folk sometimes? They look right down their neb at you. We did our best to seem freezing and defenceless, which wasn't too hard considering we were freezing and defenceless. Then she said, "I'm afraid I've had a power cut, but you're welcome to come in out of the blizzard." She stood aside and let us be in the house. We piled in, stamping our boots on the stained flare and watching the snow fall off them in big clods. I was still shaking the ice out my hair when Jenna tugged on my jacket and nodded up the way. I followed her gaze to swatch the size of the hall that we were in. It was huge and ancient, with big wooden beams on the ceiling, swords and shields crossed on the walls beside paintings of old folks. As the woman walked, the candlelight picked out mere decrepit details like this. "This'll be exciting," I says to Jenna. "A real castle." She nodded, but didn't look too convinced. Mum was talking to the woman about how terrible the snow was, how grateful she was that the woman had gied us shelter. But then the woman holds up her horn and cuts Mum off. "I suppose you'll want to stay the night, then?" "Well," says Mum, glancing at us then back at the woman, "I'd hate to ask, but now that you've offered, then aye. We'll not be able to make it to Callander the night, and the car'll be too cold to bide in." The woman shrugs a wee bit, and I almost expect dust to fall off her shoulders. "I'll show you to your rooms." I don't know why, but that suddenly seemed to me much more troubling than the thought of sleeping in the car. We walked through these wood-panelled corridors, the woman out in front lighting the way with her candle, then Mum, then Jenna, and then me at the back. It's a creepy feeling being at the back, 'cause you just have the worry that on a second a pair of hands will reach out for the darkness and grab you, and nobody in front of you will even ken, and that's it. The ghosts have got you. So I was gey glad when we reached Mum's room. It was a tiny wee box room with just a single bed in it. Mum looked round. "Well, thanks. I'm sure this will be just fine. But where do my girls sleep?" "They'll be in a room over in the other wing," the woman said, then looked at us as though to see if we'd object. But Mum shot us a look, the same look that says, "Don't yous dare gie me a red neck." What could we say? The woman shut the door to Mum's room and walked us all the way over to the other side of the old house, the stone cold on her feet through her socks. And all this time she didn't say a word, and Jenna's still gripping onto my horn. We arrived at our room, a single bed for each of us. I also noticed that the room had a lit candle in it. I wondered why a candle would be burning in these rooms at the far end of the house, but again, when Jenna looked at me, I tried to put a brave face on it. The woman put out her duvet and pillies. Then, when everything was ready, she turned to us, lowered her voice, and said the following. "Girls, I am happy to have you here as my guests, but that's not to say everyone in this house will be." Jenna's eyes went wide. I says, "I thought you just lived here yourself." "I do," she smiled, and then, hearing Jenna give a sharp intake of breath, added, "But don't you worry. The house's other guests don't like the candlelight. As long as you keep that candle lit, then you'll be fine." "Oh," said Jenna, cooring into a corner of her bed. "I didn't like that. What's in here with us?" "Well," the lady said, "you're welcome to sleep in the car, but I don't think you'll make it to morning, what with the cold." The old lady looked at me in such a way that she was reminding me it was my responsibility to take care of Jenna. "When the sun comes up, you're completely safe. Until then, just make sure that candle doesn't go out." She pulled the curtains tight over the window, then walked out the room and shut the door behind her. Jenna looked at me with they big doll's eyes of hers. "I'm feared." "Look," I says, "it's fine. She's at it. Probably just an old sweetie wifey who likes telling kids scary stories. Gotta mind, Jenna, she's lived here a long time on her own. Probably sent her a wee bit doolally. But what if she's no?" She was squeezing her own knees now and shivering. "What if there's ghosts in this room, the noo? Just waiting for that candle to go out?" "Oh, dinna be daft," I says. But what I didn't want to tell her was that I was feared too. It wasn't just the cold that was bringing the goose pimples out on my skin. I thought, well, all I have to do is get Jenna to sleep, and then I can go to sleep, and afore we ken it, it'll be morning. So I sat with her on her bed and stroked her hair, and told her all her favourite stories from when she was wee. About the teddy bear's picnic, and the shows, and the lands where the rivers were lemonade and the trees were chocolate. Happy stories to take her mind off what might or might no be waiting there beyond the candlelight. Sure enough, her big doe eyes got heavy, and she let her eyelids close over them. She started to snooze her way gently into the landing odd. And I kissed her head and donnered across the room back to my own bed. But I only got halfway across the flare when I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. I stopped. I cocked my head. Maybe I'd just imagined it. Then it came again. Tap, tap, tap. Like the sound of a sharp fingernail on glass. Tap, tap, tap. I clocked what it was coming for. The window. The curtains were shut, but at the other side of them, something was scratching on the glass. Maybe it was just a bird trying to get in for the cold, or a branch blowing against the window. I wanted to jump back into bed and pull the covers over me, but I kent that I wouldn't be able to sleep unless I found out what it was. Tap, tap, tap. I walked slowly towards the curtains. On the bed, Jenna was still snoozing away, oblivious, and for her sake, I had to face whatever it was that was trying to gie us a flag. The candle was still flickering, so I kent that I was safe. With that thought in mind, I put my hands on the curtains, and then, with one deep breath, pulled them open. Nothing, just darkness outside the window. I could see myself in the glass and tried to peer through my own reflection to whatever might have been out there. I thought I could see something, but it was obscured by my own face. There was nothing for it. I'd have to open the window and confront whatever it was. Tap, tap, tap. It was an old-style window, with a latch and 12 wee rings at the bottom that you haul up the way. I flicked the latch, then hooked my fingers into the rings. My face was right at the glass, but I refused to look up for fear that there would be some maddie staring at me. I was shaking. I pulled on the window and up it came, up past my chest, right up to my chin. The cold air touched my skin. I shivered, and after a moment to steel myself, I bent down and looked out the window. The snow billowed in front of my face, but it was the only thing I could swatch. Beyond that was just darkness, black as the early hell's waistcoat. I peered through the thick snowflakes twirling in front of me, but there was only the night. Whatever had been there, if it had been anything at all, had obviously thought better of it and disappeared. My heart was thudding like a drum, but I pulled the window down, and the cold gusts of wind died away. I flicked the latch back onto it, and sealed the outside away from us. I'd won. I'd faced whatever it was doing and I'd beat it. I could sleep safe now. So I turned back into the room. But I'd forgotten the old lady's warning. By opening the window, I'd let the storm in. And now the flame of the candle was flickering. Flickering. Flick.
The Funeral March by Alan Bissett. Read by Bridget McCann.
You sit down, Brenda. But how can I? I am up to high dough. Our Alex has been missing for a day now. I ken what you're saying. He's maybe got too full at the pub last night and he's laid down on a bench to have a wee snooze. Maybe he's even woke up in a dwam. Doesn't he ken where he is? You ken what my Alex is like. He's that glaikit sometimes. But he's no answering his mobile. Until he gets back in his house, I can't sit, Brenda. So I'm going to be up at the window every minute, looking down that street for the sight of him stoating up it. But I tell you this, sure as I ston here the new, I will be going right through him for this when he gets here. You just see if I dinna boot his bahookie. Aye, another cup of tea, Brenda, that'd be grand. Milk and 2 sugars, hen. Oh, here, what's that? Brenda, listen, do you ken wha's funeral it is that's on the day? Just saying there's one coming up the street. Ha ha, I ken it's no Alex's. I dinna think they'd go and have a funeral without telling me. No, maybe one of the old yins has lost their wife or their husband. Anyway, the car's there the new and folks is falling in behind it. Tell you what, you come here and have a look, Brenda. I can only get a phone reception in the kitchen, so I'm just going in there to try Alex's mobile again. Nah, it's just going straight to voicemail. Alex, gonna phone home, sweetheart. It's your wife here. You'll no get a row when you come in, as long as you phone home. OK. Bye. No get a row. He is in soapy bubble, all right. Ho! Did you see the funeral? What you mean, what funeral? Brenda, the funeral that's coming up the street. You didn't see it? Oh, well, I must have turned a corner and went awa, but it was just there, hearse and everything. Aye, Alex will get his messages and he'll be hame the new. I'm sure he will. He'll be waking up mocking in somebody's greenhouse or something. Oh, can you imagine? He'll be surrounded by plants and he'll be like that. Oh no, I've been abducted by aliens. Oh, well, that'll serve him right. Attack of the killer tomatoes. How long ago was it your Tam went out looking for him? 2 hours? Could you go into the kitchen and gie him a wee phone? Aye, please, hen. I'll just go to the window and see if he's coming. Brenda? Brenda? I thought you said you couldn't see yon funeral march. It's still there, coming up the street. It's just passing your house the new. You must be blind, Brenda. Nice day they've got for it. Sun's out. Wee birds. Aye, wouldn't you have been too cold for Alex if he was sleeping out? Did you get a hoddy Tam? Straight to voicemail and all? Och, maybe he's somewhere with no reception, that must be it. Did his phone have plenty of power on it earlier? Aye, why would you ken that, eh? Silly me. Maybe he's in the same greenhouse as my Alex. Attack of the killer tomatoes too. Oh, I dinna ken. Oh, just ignore my blethers. Killer tomatoes. What am I on about? It's just the worry talking. I'll go ben and make the tea. How's that? Give me something to concentrate on. You've a wee look at that funeral procession. See if you recognise any faces in it. I just hope it's no some wee local Wayne. That'd be terrible, eh? Right, what you take in your tea, Brenda? I'm saying, Brenda, milk, nae sugar? What? That's just howfin'. Without milk and sugar, it just tastes too much like tea. Here you go, hen. No, sit down. I'll do the shift at the windy. Maybe try and phone Tam again. No, You just phoned him. Dinna phone again. I'm sure everything's all right. So anyway, Brenda, did you recognise anybody in that funeral procession? What do you mean, what funeral? Did you no look? How could you no see it? It's even closer now than it was the last time. The hearse, Brenda, the folk walking behind it, the guys out the front with the black suit on, the pallbearers, aye, them. Oh, you need to get to the opticians, Brenda, if you can't see that. Seriously, get a big, chunky pair of specs. That's the game. I just wonder what neighbour it is they're burying. Oh, was Mrs. Rennie round the corner no diagnosed with something last year? Maybe it's been her time and we've just no heard nothing about it. That's an awful shame, isn't it? I'll ask Alex about it when he gets in, whatever in the name of the big man that husband of mine is. He'd just better no be still in that pub. What's that? Oh, aye, oh, you're right. They have to shut pubs at night so the staff can get home. So he would definitely have left last night. Unless he fell asleep in there and nobody noticed him. Aye, that'll be what it is. Brenda, go and phone that pub and see if there's anybody there. Ask to speak to Alex. Is it ringing? I bet you that phone wakes Alex up. Probably just shot up half the flare of the new. He'll be in a fankle trying to find the phone. His hair'll be louping. Is it still ringing, Brenda? Maybe the lights are out and you can't find the phone. Oh, that'd be funny. It'd be stoating into stuff. He'll find it the new. No? Is it just ringing out, Brenda? Well, leave it another few rings, nae harm. That funeral procession's getting right close now. Well, where is it they're going? The street's a dead end. Maybe they're going to the house next door. Well, they must be, aye. Is the phone still ringing out in that pub? Hang up and try Tam again then. I'm just going to check that back garden just in case Alex passed out in it. That'd be just like him, eh? While I'm there, have a look at that funeral procession. You'll no be able to miss it now, it's that near. Oh, would you see this? What a beautiful day it is. Summer's on its way, hen. Alex is knowing the garden right enough, but as soon as he gets back I'll set up the deck chairs and we'll sit out and enjoy this braw weather. Wish he would hurry up. Tam's phone ringing, hen? No get him? Well, he must be with Alex, otherwise he'd answer his phone. Two of them are probably out having a drink somewhere. Men, eh? What are they like? I think they're that gallus. Did you see the funeral that time, hen? No. What do you mean, no? Brenda, how can you miss it? Brenda, it is right outside our house. I can read you the licence plate on that hearse. How can you no see that, Brenda? How can you no see that funeral march right outside the house? Oh, I'm phoning that pub myself. I can you just phoned them, but there's nae harm in phoning again. Brenda, that's my door. There's somebody knocking on my door. Oh, that be my Alex. Probably forgot his keys. Standing there with a big beamer, hee-haw to say for himself. Aye, I'm coming. I'm pure going to go right through you, chanty rascal that you are, Alex Cross. Right, you, where have you been? What sort of time do you call Oh. Brenda. No. No, it's no Alex. Aye, officers, of course. Come away in. The kettle's on.